Hi folks, here at GSA we embrace this theology of the perfect customer experience wholeheartedly. We have not only a right but also a serious responsibility to differentiate our real estate knowledge and to use that knowledge tactically for the entire division community. Here with me today is a friend. His name is Michael Weipert, a senior realty specialist here in our region and a mentor to many new realty specialists here at this office. Mike, how long did it take you to put this project together, and what is the project all about?
First of all, this project is a parking garage for ICE here in Manhattan. This project has sort of been in the works for years because we've been in a space since sometime in the 80s, I believe. And we have a difficult time securing parking for agencies in Manhattan. I mean, as you can tell, there really isn't parking available here, and the parking that is available is at such a high premium. And so we were in a space that happened to be in a situation where the landlord had passed away years and years ago, and a management agency for his estate since took over all his properties and let a lot of them fall by the wayside into disrepair and things like that. So while ICE was in a space, they weren't in a space that was being maintained, and the place was basically falling apart. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they hired a real estate broker, and they tried to negotiate an extension with us, or a succeeding lease, which is what we had wanted to do for years, and they wouldn't get back to us and would ignore us, ignore our letters, ignore our phone calls, ignore our visits. And then all of a sudden, they tried to raise the price quite considerably. We had been paying about $325,000 per year for 14 parking spaces, which is quite a bit of money. And this new real estate broker came on and wanted to charge us $500,000 for that. So I had to sort of turn this project around very quickly, and then within a month we were in a new location somewhere else and out of the space.
That is wonderful, Mike. Mike, also another question I wanted to ask you. Was there any bumps and hurdles? I'm sure every project that we run into, we always have bumps on the road, and if there was any, how did you overcome that bump and hurdle?
Yeah, sure. Well, the first bump and hurdle obviously was the fact that, you know, a landlord was trying to charge us a rent that we couldn't justify. I mean, at the end of the day, we have to be in the space. We know that, so we really don't have too much negotiating leverage sometimes here at GSA. But in this situation, I mean, we just simply could not justify $500,000 for 14 parking spaces.
That's wonderful. Good job, Mike. And I know, as a realty specialist myself also, sometimes I tend to ask other realty specialists and other people to help me with the project.
Sure.
Was there anybody that was involved in your project that you wanted to talk about, and how did you receive their help?
Sure. Sure, absolutely. The first person, when I went to contact somebody about parking, I mean, the first person that came to mind was Walter Moldovan, who is one of the senior people in our branch as well. Obviously, you know Walter.
Absolutely.
And it's, you know, he's known for a lot of complex leases and special projects, and I know he's done a lot of parking, even for ICE in particular in Manhattan. So I kind of approached him and wanted to see if he had any leads, if he was able to, you know, point me in the right direction, because we're constantly, as I mentioned earlier, we're constantly on what's really almost a wild goose chase looking for parking in Manhattan for all our law enforcement agencies. Another person that I approached right away was Kazi Rizvi, because he had also, while he's not in our branch, he had done some emergency parking leases also here in downtown Manhattan very recently, probably about a month or two prior to that. And then obviously, since this wasn't a standard lease and our standard SFO, it was a specialized parking lease, and just to make sure that all the, you know, I's were dotted and T's were crossed, I have a lot of help from Mark Johnson in legal here.
That is wonderful. That's a great job, Mike. My almost the last question. What did you learn from your project that you think you will carry on to the next project, or what would you like to tell the new realty specialist about your experience?
Well, I think something that's key here is that we're kind of managing a lot of people all at once. I mean, not only do we have the agency, but we have different facets of the agency. We have the local office that's here in the field, that actually is going to be the tenant of the space. We have that agency's national office who kind of dictates those requirements. and then we have a landlord to balance. So if I was to give some advice to a new realty specialist, or really anybody, is just to make sure you can get that local and that national office on the same page. Just to kind of keep all those entities balanced and make sure that you're kind of helping them get on the same page, because they're not always going to be on the same page themselves. And what I was able to work out here was, once I was able to kind of get the national and the local office of ICE on the same page, I wound up getting 18 parking spaces as opposed to 14. 2 of them for large 20-passenger vans with electric, fully serviced, whereas in our old lease we were only paying the rent of $325,000 a year, and we were paying on top of that for services. I was able to get it down with the additional parking spaces to $180,000 fully serviced. And I think that's just a matter of really getting these agencies to really define differentiate their wants from their needs, because they're 2 different things. And
job well done, Mike, as many other projects you have worked on, and as well as other realty specialists that we wanted to thank here in our region, who's done as wonderful job as Mike Weiper, and thanks to all.